Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Our welcome opens doors to infinite possibilities with our joyous African embrace and smiles that touch the soul, for we are home. As a diamond is formed deep within the earth, so are we, a hard-working, skilled human capital. And we stand together in love, peace, and joy. Our summer months with long sunny days and our mild winters are perfect for business, leisure, and the experience of our rich culture and its sumptuous Africa-infused cuisines. We have the most spectacular views, majestic wildlife, scenic routes, mysterious mountains, and of course, our very own Mosioatunya, the mighty Victoria Falls, the smoke that thunders, with its imposing poise of grandeur spanning the Zambezi River. And from it, we continue to increase our energy supply, a key driver of agriculture, mining, manufacturing, tourism, transport, ICT, and financial services. We are strategically located, a regional gateway with competitive incentives and a commitment to the security of your investment. Join us on a promising new start, filled with adventure, passion, and a dynamic new leadership of hope. Because every new day is a celebration, from the magic of our handmade pieces, when we sing and dance in tune with our legendary musicians. See the talent in our young people with their lasting expressions that say, yes, we are the joy of Africa. So come and experience the new dawn. Zimbabwe is open for business.
Well, a very good morning to all across Zimbabwe and the African continent today, and good afternoon to those joining us from across Canada. I'm Gareth Bloor, President of the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business, and it's my great privilege and high honor to welcome so many to this event today. The dignitaries include our esteemed speakers, and they are the Honorable Dr. Frederick Shava, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade from the Republic of Zimbabwe, Honorable Kirsty Coventry, the country's Minister of Youth, Sport, Arts and Recreation, and of course a global Olympic icon. Her Excellency Ruth Mazodzi Chikwera, the Honorable Ambassador of Zimbabwe to Canada, and Canada's Ambassador to Harare, Her Excellency Christina Buchan, joining us from Zimbabwe. And Mr. Sebastian Spiogabra, our Chair of the Board, will introduce everyone in just a minute with a formal welcome. Our panelists will follow during the second half of today's session. They join us from a range of organizations across Zimbabwe, and we will conclude with a final message from Hatch, a key chamber sponsor, but also an organization that has been operational in Zimbabwe and across Africa as a Canadian firm. Our VIPs are drawn from the breadth of the continent today. In addition to dignitaries from the Government of Canada, we have the following ambassadors with us: His Excellency Prosper Agiro of Rwanda, Ambassador Vivian Bampasi of Senegal, and Dr. Mpoki, the High Commissioner of Tanzania to Canada. Representatives from the following high commissions and embassies are also warmly welcomed: Morocco, Madagascar, Chad, Algeria, Kenya, and representation from the African Union. From the Government of Canada, I'd like to acknowledge Claude Gendron, the Director General for Eastern and Southern Africa, joining us in the nation's capital of Ottawa, and Mike Morgan, President of the Canada Southern Africa Chamber of Business, our counterparts on the ground across SADC. Good afternoon to you. And finally, to members of the board, both our directors as well as our advisory council, thank you for joining us and for your support of the chamber. And a special welcome to the various investment funds, from angel investors to venture capitalists and private equity. It is wonderful to see you with us today. And finally, to CEOs, trade commissioners, all entrepreneurs, welcome to you. It is my great honor now to hand over to the Chair of the Board of the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business, Mr. Sebastian Spiogabra. As Chair, he has led the organization through its illustrious history, and in the last 2 years has been a key component and a leader in the reforms that have taken place in the Chamber, particularly the transition to a full-time organization with multiple offices and full-time operations. Mr. Spiogabra has led various investment deals that total billions in transactions between the continent and flowing into the continent from North America. Mr. Sebastian Speargarborough, Chair of the Board, the floor is yours for the official welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Mr. Bloor and Gareth and Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It's a real pleasure and a high privilege to deliver a few remarks at the opening of this very important webinar. Zimbabwe, without a doubt, is one of those enigmatic countries, a country whose history is very much tied to the history of Africa. I remember a few weeks ago, my children and I were watching a program on the great stone formations in Great Zimbabwe, and one of my children is interested in architecture, and she was trying to figure out how so many hundreds of years ago they were able to build this very spherical formations, and we're discussing it, and I was trying to explain to her that this was done a long time ago, and this again testifies to the historic ingenuity, the technological advancement, the creativity, the entrepreneurship, the leadership, the capacity of Zimbabwe. So I think oftentimes people tend to think of Zimbabwe in its contemporary context. And we sometimes make these mistakes in international relations, where we think of, Iraq, and we think only of the fact that the country is quote unquote a mess. But we forget that this is the country that was a cradle of civilization. This was a country where Abraham himself set off thousands of years ago. And I often say to people that when we approach the countries from a certain sense of humility and perspective, where we remember the historical background of these countries, it allows us to, I think, engage in the countries, not necessarily only in its contemporary context of its challenges, but we understand, we draw strength from its historical background. So frankly, I have no doubt in my mind, in my experience, both at the chamber and elsewhere, I up and down Africa, helping to promote investments, whether between Canada and Africa. Every Zimbabwean I've met, whether in the UK, in Australia, in Canada, anywhere you meet Zimbabweans, these are some of the most highly educated people on the African continent. The education levels in Zimbabwe are probably one of the highest in the continent. There's a country that has an amazing infrastructure in terms of railways, in terms of roads that links the country together. There's a country that historically is one of the bread baskets of the region. And there's a country where fundamentally the human potential, the historical background of the country gives its people a great impetus. So I really have no doubt that today, as we all gather to celebrate Zimbabwe, to learn a bit about Zimbabwe, we all walk away with a sense that this is a country that has been great in the past, that is great now, and can become greater in the future. And I think that all of us as Canadians and as Africans and others from different parts of the world who are joining can join hands to see how we can collaborate in terms of trade and investment and human and cultural exchanges to bring Zimbabwe to where it's supposed to be. So I really, it's a real high honor and a real great privilege to declare this webinar open. And I really thank again all of you excellencies for joining us today, and all of you distinguished guests. Again, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Good afternoon to those of you in Africa. Mr. Bloor.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And certainly it's no understatement to point out that disproportionately the leadership here of the Chamber, more so than drawing from any other country, draws from Zimbabwe. And in fact, the current strategy that has led our 27-year organization to where we are was led by Mr. Mokani Moyo, a Zimbabwean, and Mr. Brian Dodo, who played a key role of that and is moderating later today. So the contribution of the country to the continent and to the strategic relationship of Canada and the continent as a whole is well recognized. Well, the ambassador to Zimbabwe from Canada, Ambassador Christina Buchan, joins us this morning live and this afternoon live from Harare. and has served in a variety of roles. It was our great privilege as a chamber to engage with you, Ambassador, during your first week on the ground in Zimbabwe, and certainly things have moved from strength to strength. In addition to your role as Ambassador of Canada to Zimbabwe, you have also served in a key role across the world. At the UN, you were a policy consultant to the World Food Programme. At UNICEF, you pioneered some key work, particularly in the Middle East, working out of Jordan on issues around children and their development. And you've also played a key role with the Government of Canada in a variety of aspects of Canada's international policy and implementing that policy around the world. It is a great honor to welcome you for opening remarks live from Harare.
Thank you. Your Excellencies, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, good to see you again. The Minister of Youth, Sports, Arts and Recreation, welcome. Ambassador of Zimbabwe to Canada, pleasure to meet you. Representatives of the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, I hope. Let me start by saying a very heartfelt congratulations to Zimbabwe for joining the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business today. I am exceptionally pleased with this news. It's a really good step forward towards working together to promote international trade between Canada and Zimbabwe. When I presented my letter of credentials to His Excellency, the President of Zimbabwe, he challenged me to find opportunities for more trade and investment between Canada and Zimbabwe. By joining the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business, Zimbabwe joins a network of Canadian businesses who are not only interested in Africa, but who are already working in Africa and looking for further opportunities to expand their businesses. By joining together in partnership today, this links Canada and Zimbabwe more closely together to achieve our mutual economic goals. I have been in Zimbabwe for less than 6 months, but already I am impressed by the resilience of the Zimbabwean population, the potential that the country offers. Zimbabwe is rich in natural resources, particularly minerals. Zimbabwe is rich in agricultural land. Zimbabwe is rich in temperate climate and sunshine, which are necessary for renewable energy. I see so much potential. That said, Zimbabwe is also a very unique operating environment. For example, the foreign currency is a particular challenge. But while Zimbabwe faces a number of challenges to make the country attractive to international business, it has also taken concrete steps to be open for business, including the reopening of mining assets to foreign ownership. Canadian businesses interested in working in Zimbabwe must do their homework, as they would anywhere in the world, to better understand the local context and the business regulations. By getting to know the local business context, Canadian businesses can better assess their potential success. Many of you present today are already working in Zimbabwe directly or through partnerships, or are interested in the opportunities that Zimbabwe offers. To that end, the Trade Commissioner Service of Canada is pleased to work with Canadian businesses interested in working in Zimbabwe. The Trade Commissioner Service has an officer based in Harare who can provide personalized advice to Canadian companies and organizations wishing to do business in Zimbabwe. My team and I recently traveled to Bulawayo, Zimbabwe's second largest city, to meet with companies in mining and manufacturing to better understand the local business climate. We are in regular contact with businesses in all sectors, as well as working with Zimtrade and the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agencies. Our office in Harare tracks the status of market conditions and is always pleased to discuss the current conditions with Canadian companies as part of our core services for market intelligence. So the Embassy of Canada in Harare stands ready to discuss the potential of Zimbabwe with more Canadian businesses. And I very much look forward to increased collaboration between Zimbabwe and the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business. Congratulations on your new partnership. Tatenda, Siyabonga, merci, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, and thank you for the leadership in the past 6 months and building on the incredible work of your predecessor, with whom we were also privileged to have a wonderful dialogue and in fact engage on the ground down in the SADC markets, particularly on Zimbabwe. At this juncture, we have an incredible co-host, and I don't use that term lightly. The Embassy of Zimbabwe, led by Her Excellency Ruth Chikwira, has been dynamic in its engagements with the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business, a long-standing participant at events that have taken place, and certainly well-regarded and well-known to those in Ottawa. What Her Excellency will be doing is taking us through the introductions of our 2 ministerial speakers, and we will then move over after those introductions to hearing from the keynote ministerial speaker, the Honourable Foreign Affairs Minister. Your Excellency, your leadership, your role, your passion, your daily communication with the Chamber is deeply appreciated. Your commitment to deepening the ties between your country and this country is recognized not only by the operational team at the Chamber, but indeed by our board and our wider leadership. And for that, we sincerely thank you for pioneering and playing the important role that you do. Her Excellency has been the ambassador here to Canada, having arrived in 2019 in December, when she presented her letters of credence as the ambassador designate. And the Honorable Chikwera has earned a bachelor's degree in administration from the University of Zimbabwe, also has a master's degree in business administration from the Free University of Brussels, and brings extensive experience in diplomacy, particularly from her time in several European capitals, deepening the ties between Zimbabwe and the rest of the world. Your Excellency, it's an honor to welcome you. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gareth Blow, for this introduction. Mr. Sebastian Spio-Gabra, Chairperson of the Board of the Canada-Africa Chamber, Mr. Gareth Blow, President of the Chamber, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Honorable Frederick Shava, Minister of Youth, Sport, Arts and Recreation, Honorable Kirsty Coventry, thank you for joining us. Your Excellency, Ambassador Christina Buchan, Ambassador of Canada to Zimbabwe, Excellencies, Honorable Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, David Musabayana, Director General for Global Affairs, Canada, Your Excellencies, my colleagues from here in Canada, and maybe my colleagues from Zimbabwe also, members of the Diplomatic Corps, invited captains of industry, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Zimbabwe and Johannesburg. Good morning, Canada. I feel greatly honored and privileged to address this inaugural event marking Zimbabwe's admission to the Canada-Africa Business Chamber. I warmly welcome you all to this historic event. Allow me to express my gratitude to the Chamber, especially the Chairman and the President, for having worked tirelessly with the Embassy as we walked the path towards achieving our goal. May I also commend the Chamber for the work that it is undertaking in encouraging dialogue on promoting and developing economic linkages between Canada and the African continent. I also wish to express appreciation to the Honorable Minister Shava, Honorable Deputy Minister Musabayana, and the team at head office, under the guidance of the Secretary for Foreign Affairs and International Trade, for their prompt and timely support as we put this program to fruition. They left no stone unturned and would respond to our queries well outside normal working hours, given the time difference between Harare and Ottawa. I also wish to appreciate and commend the team here at the Embassy in Ottawa. Having said that, my task is to introduce our two key ministerial ministers. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, to present Honorable Kirsty Coventry. Hello, Minister. Thank you so much for joining us. Minister Coventry was appointed the Minister of Youth, Sport, Arts and Recreation in September 2018. She is a former Olympic gold medal swimmer and a world record holder, and the most decorated Olympian from the African continent and indeed from Zimbabwe. She is a member of the International Olympic Committee and in early 2018 was elected the chairperson of the IOC Athletes Commission, the body that represents all Olympic athletes worldwide. At the 2004 Summer Olympics in Athens, she won 3 Olympic medals, a gold, a silver, and a bronze. In the 2008 Summer Olympics in Beijing, she won 4 medals, a gold and 3 silvers. Minister Coventry has competed in World Championships between 2000 and 2016, and in World Cups, winning gold medals, silver, and bronze medals, a whole host of medals. She competed at the 2015 Africa Games, winning 3 gold medals. Minister Coventry has a long history in sports administration at national and international level. She indeed is regarded as our Olympic icon in Zimbabwe, a national treasure, and our golden girl. Minister Coventry, it's a pleasure to introduce you. Thank you.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. And Ambassador, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I very much appreciate your kind words and thank you for having me. I apologize ahead of time if you can hear my 2-year-old in the background. She's woken up with a not feeling too well. So if you hear the occasional youthful 2-year-old voice, I do apologize for that, balancing being a mom and working, which I'm sure Ambassador and both ambassadors will know well. Shh, please. So over there, can you go look over there, please? I apologize for that. I'm one parent up at the moment. My husband had other commitments. So honorable minister and ministers here and ambassadors present, to the president of the chamber, to the chairperson of the board, members of parliament, captains of industry in Canada and Zimbabwe, and all invited guests. It is really my great honor to be with you here today. It is really incredible that Zimbabwe has worked extremely hard. Sorry, give me 2 seconds.
No. Honorable Minister, please don't apologize. This is what Africa is about. We have to bring some of these ideas to the rest of the world. That all this work we are doing is for them, and all our existence is because of them. So they are part of the conversation. So I have 4 children. And they do this to me all the time. So please explain.
Thank you, President. I know with COVID,
any problem.
From
It's for them. This whole exercise is for the children. So there is no apology necessary. Thank you.
I appreciate your understanding. I really do. Thank you. And I know that you can definitely appreciate that with 4 children. You just never know what they're going to hand out to you. And unfortunately, today, my husband had other commitments that he couldn't get out of. So but this is exactly as you said. This is why we do what we do, and this is why Zimbabwe is pushing very hard for different reforms and economic empowerment of young people within our country. And being admitted into the Canada Africa Business Chamber is such an exciting development for us. It's a very important milestone. And I just would like to thank everyone that has been involved in strengthening and deepening these economic linkages between Zimbabwe and Canada. As we heard the ambassador to Zimbabwe mention, we are strong and have many resources in agriculture and mining and so many other talents that young people have, especially in sport, which is very close to my heart. As we know, Zimbabwe is open for business, and we would love to encourage investors and traders of business entities from local and international to take up the opportunities that are being presented to them through the Zimbabwe is Open for Business. And really just to note that Zimbabwe is pursuing so many reforms, and the agenda is so that we can energize our people with a huge focus on restoring our youth, and allowing for them to really show their capabilities, which I get to see in my job every single day. Just the resilience and the excitement and the enthusiasm that young people have in Zimbabwe and Africa is truly amazing, and their ideas, and they just need a platform in which to leverage those ideas. And this is one of those platforms that I believe will greatly benefit young Zimbabweans. To be able to also just give some recognition to this specific development and give recognition to the shared values that Zimbabwe and Canada share. The pursuit of excellence in sports, the values as countries in which to allow for young people to grow and pursue their dreams is really something close to Zimbabwe's heart. And what we're working on specifically with our ministry is exactly that. We wanting to leverage more opportunities for young people to empower themselves. I know that as Zimbabwe, we are not as how do I say it, as successful maybe in the Winter Olympic Games because we just don't have snow. But again, coming back to sports, we really do have incredible talent in our sports people in Zimbabwe. And again, another way in which I believe this will be able to strengthen our ties is being able to help each other in those areas of sport and art and through young people. So I really hope that you all have a wonderful deliberation today. I would love to host many different Canadian companies and individuals that would love to come to Zimbabwe and invest in Zimbabwe. As we've always said, Zimbabwe is open for business. We're focusing on all the reforms and we're really looking forward to a very bright future. So thank you all for all of your hard work for making this step possible. And we're really looking forward to the next steps and what's to come in the future. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Minister. And just to your point on reforms, the Fraser Institute, which is one of the top-rated think tanks here in Canada, in fact, to paraphrase their Director for Economic Freedom, said reforms in Zimbabwe could unleash one of the most prosperous countries, not only on the continent, but in the world. And so recognition of that potential and the deliberations together to reach that, it's an absolute honor to have this collaboration. Ambassador, thank you so much for the introduction. And back over to you, Madam Ambassador, for the introduction of our keynote speaker, the Honorable Minister Shava.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. Just to say, in the field of foreign policy, Zimbabwe is pursuing a policy that it will be a friend to all and an enemy to none. It's a policy of affirmation, of engagement and re-engagement, and that Zimbabwe is open for business. Foreign Affairs and International Trade Minister, Honorable Shava, using his diverse background in labor, business, politics, and diplomacy, is spearheading this economic diplomacy policy. It is aimed at assisting Zimbabwe to boost the economy and improve international relations and facilitate economic and commercial exchanges between Zimbabwe and strategic partners. Honorable Minister Shava, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, will deliver a keynote address outlining a detailed outlook of this policy, including investment incentives, opportunities in various sectors of the economy, and the reforms being undertaken by government, among others. Minister Shava was appointed to this onerous post in February 2021. Prior to his appointment, he served as Zimbabwe's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, where he was the president of the UN Economic and Social Affairs Council. He also served as Zimbabwe's ambassador to China. He served in the early years of our independence as Minister of Labor, Manpower, Planning and Development, and also as Minister of State for Political Affairs. He comes from a background of a lot of political involvement and participation in our pre-independence era. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to invite the Honorable Minister to give us his keynote address. Thank you very much.
The Board Chairman, President and Executives of the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business, Zimbabwe's Ambassador to Canada, Ambassador Ruth Chikwira, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm greatly honored to be officiating at this important event where we are celebrating the admission of Zimbabwe to the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business, CABC. On behalf of the government of Zimbabwe, I would like to express our deep appreciation to the CABC for accepting our application for membership to the Chamber within a very short space of time. This is testimony to the commitment by the Chamber to facilitate increased business engagements between Canada and the whole of Africa. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, I look forward to facilitating enhanced economic and commercial diplomacy with Canada, and in particular facilitating trade and investment between our two countries. Zimbabwe offers immense business opportunities which are ready to tap. The country also has a huge growth potential, given that the vast natural resource base and highly educated, skilled, and trainable workforce, which is highly sought after internationally. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has had a serious negative impact on the world economy by affecting global supply chains, trade, and investment. While Africa's GDP contracted by about 2% in 2020, the continent's GDP is projected to grow by over 3% in 2021. The economy of Zimbabwe is, however, posted to grow by at least 5% annually until 2025, mainly driven by agriculture, mining, and services sectors. The macroeconomic stability is also expected to be sustained by prudent fiscal and monetary policies, as well as structural reforms being implemented by government under the National Development Strategy, NDS1, which have since started showing positive results, particularly on the stability of inflation and the exchange rate. While the COVID-19 pandemic is expected to be with us for the foreseeable future, I am very much optimistic that the future of Zimbabwe and Africa remains promising. What needs to be done is to embrace what I call, in quotation, the new normal, and move towards forward accordingly. In this regard, the priority for us is to intensify our rolling out of the COVID-19 vaccination programs to ensure that the majority of our people are inoculated. You may be aware that Zimbabwe is one of the leading countries in Africa in terms of its vaccination program. The plan is to inoculate at least 60% of the population to achieve herd immunity and fully open up for the economy to normal economic activity. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of the Republic of Zimbabwe, under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa, has since 2017 been opening the country for business to the international community so as to build a strong economy that will catapult Zimbabwe to an upper middle income society by 2030. The objective is to achieve sustainable economic growth and development by harnessing the human capital and the natural resources that the country is endowed with. President Mnangagwa has been consistent with the Zimbabwe is open for business mantra, and would want to see that indeed Zimbabwe is open for business. In this regard, a series of sweeping and far-reaching reforms have been implemented since 2017 to facilitate the case of the ease of doing business and direct the economy trajectory of Zimbabwe. The President is fully aware and supportive of the important role of investment and trade in driving structural transformation and industrialization. That is why the main policy thrust of government is to open up and facilitate in investment generally and investment-led economic recovery. At the dawn of the new dispensation, the first priority was to establish the economy and review investment-related policies to create an enabling business environment under the short term. The Transitional Stabilization Program, what we called the TSP, which ran from 2018 to 2020, was used for this purpose. The TSP managed to ensure macroeconomic stabilization and laid a strong foundation for the successor National Development Strategy 1, NDS 1, which is running from 2021 to 2025. The NDS 1 seeks to consolidate the stabilization made under TSP and further give the economy impetus for the faster growth through the investment and trade. One of the major reforms implemented was the review of the controversial 51/49 indigenization policy and law. Investors can now come and do business in Zimbabwe in all key sectors with up to 100% foreign ownership permissible. Shareholding is actually an outcome of negotiations between interested parties in that particular business. Furthermore, the protection of investments is certainly guaranteed. In addition to the reforms I've highlighted above, the government established the Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency. Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, ZIDA, as a vehicle for promoting and an appropriate and competitive investment environment. ZIDA is now fully functional following the enactment of the ZIDA Act in February 2020. The agency is set now as a one-stop investment service center, and this one-stop investment service center will ensure that investments processes are reduced to a bare minimum in terms of turnaround time. Special economic zones, SEZs, are now also incorporated into the ZIDA Act and are an important tool for our industrialization strategy. A number of areas have been identified and designated as special economic zones around the country. Investment proposals are being considered from various investors who want to invest in the country, and such investments can apply for special economic zones status. All special economic zones status have attractive incentives that include tax holidays, duty exemptions on imports of capital equipment and inputs. ZIDA will be able to elaborate more on this on request. Ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe is a land of immense opportunities for investment and trade in virtually all sectors. We seek to revamp the economy by growing the agriculture, mining, industry, and services sectors, and building up world-class infrastructure to facilitate the development of diverse industrial ventures. Agriculture is the mainstay of Zimbabwe's economy and has traditionally provided employment and incomes to more than 60% of the population of this country, and supplied 60% of raw materials required by the manufacturing sector. We have ample arable land, diverse agroecological zones, good rainfall patterns, and irrigation potential. We are also a producer of organically grown agricultural produce. Ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe would want to be self-sufficient, attain food surplus, and reclaim its position of being, in quotation, the breadbasket of Southern Africa. Following the successful implementation of the land reform program, the thrust of the government now is to ensure full utilization of the land and increase production and productivity. Enormous opportunities are available for investment in agriculture, value chains, notably in crop and livestock farming, farm mechanization, irrigation development, and agro-processing. The horticulture sector also has great export potential for the private investor. In terms of manufacturing, we seek to industrialize the economy and restore the manufacturing of the engine, and restore manufacturing as the engine for economic growth and development. Zimbabwe's manufacturing sector is well diversified and has strong linkages with productive sectors of the economy. There is excess capacity across the manufacturing subsectors, thereby presenting immense opportunity for investors to establish new as well as resuscitate closed companies. The industrial value chain with potential for investment include textiles and clothing, livestock and leather, food, beverages, and fertilizer and agrochemicals, and pharmaceuticals, among other ventures. Any industrial venture targeted at value addition and beneficiation, and developing the manufacturing sector are assured of maximum support. In this regard, and particularly in the mining sector, Zimbabwe is endowed with over 60 exploitable minerals, of which 11 minerals are being commercially exploited already. Zimbabwe has the second largest or highest quantum of platinum deposits in the world, located along the country's Great Dyke. Geological estimates indicate that Zimbabwe has the capacity to supply 20% of the global lithium requirements. We intend to develop a US 12 billion mining industry by 2023. This will be attained through increased mineral exploration, expansion of existing mining projects, resuscitation of closed mines, opening of new mines, and mineral beneficiation and value addition. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a fact that that sound infrastructure is the bedrock on which sustainable economic growth can flourish. This is why we are determined to develop modern, efficient, and well-developed infrastructure to catalyze our economic transformation. Our current infrastructure base needs upgrading to facilitate industrial development and trade. Consequently, we have an ambitious plan to upgrade our road network and increase our power generation capacity. There are therefore numerous opportunities for investors in energy and power generation, road and rail infrastructure, dam construction and irrigation development, and housing and social amenities projects, among others. In the energy sector, the existing hydroelectric and thermal power plants have a combined installed capacity of 2,230 megawatts. These power plants have been running below capacity in recent years. The plan is to add more than 2,200 more megawatts of capacity within the next 3 to 5 years. That means that there are opportunities also for investment in the energy sector for independent power producers. In recognition of the importance of water infrastructure for growth and development, government is embarking on a rigorous move to contract water bodies to mitigate water challenges emanating from erratic rainfall patterns being caused by climate change. To this end, our largest inland water body, the Tugwi Mukosi Dam, is set to improve water supply in the southern parts of the country. Under the climate resilient National Water Resource and Irrigation Master Plan, we expect the dam to cater for the irrigation of 40,000 hectares of agricultural land. Investors are therefore welcome to enter into public-private partnerships, so-called PPPs, in the construction of more dams. In the area of transport and transport infrastructure, work is currently in progress on upgrading and modernizing our major road networks along the north-south corridor, notably the Bight Bridge, Harare-Chirundu Highway that connects South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and other regional countries up north. Upgrading and modernizing the system is currently underway with the target to establish a one-stop border post with South Africa. Let me, ladies and gentlemen, emphasize that we are also open to public-private partnerships in executing many of the large infrastructure development projects which will make our industries and economy competitive. Especially and essentially, all forms of investment and financing are welcome. Let me now turn to the services sector, which also presents numerous investment opportunities in tourism, in medical services, in financial services, transport and communications, in ICT and education, amongst others. There are investment opportunities in tourism for the development of the hospitality industry. Safari and tour operations and gaming tourists are also welcome to tour a diversity of world-class attractions in Zimbabwe that include the famous Victoria Falls and the Hwange National Park, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, Zimbabwe occupies a strategic central location in Southern Africa, which makes it a potential hub for the regional targeted investments. For the regionally targeted investments, there are vast business opportunities for foreign investors to maximize on the economic benefits of this geographical location. The country is the gateway to the wider COMESA and SADC markets. In this regard, we want to take advantage of this strategic location by developing infrastructure to facilitate investment and trade. The long and short of it, ladies and gentlemen, is that Zimbabwe needs strategic partners for success. This is why we have reached out for the Canadian African Business Chamber so that we can collaborate in our development projects, proposals, in our development journey towards a just, equitable, and prosperous Zimbabwe. Let me conclude by reiterating His Excellency President Mnangagwa's pledge that Zimbabwe is open for business and that there is no better time to consider investing and doing business in Zimbabwe than now. I look forward to welcoming more Canadian business people to do business in Zimbabwe, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for those excellent remarks and certainly a well thought out array of opportunities. Some of the comments coming through, just really expressing incredible gratitude. We've got a wonderful panel that is about to begin as we enter the second half of the program. And I'm very pleased at this point to welcome Mr. Brian Dodo, who is the CEO of MAP Africa and also a long-standing director of the board here at the Canada Africa Chamber of Business. And he'll be introducing our exciting panelists on the theme, Zimbabwe is open for business. For those of you who wish to ask questions, and some of you already have, you can reply to the email that you received the link on, or you're welcome to use our WhatsApp line Those details will appear on your screen in just a moment. Mr. Brian Dodo, thank you so much for serving as moderator, and good morning to you live from Kingston, Ontario.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gareth, for the introduction. And as a Zimbabwean in the diaspora, I'm extremely excited to be taking part in this event, as well as moderating such an important topic. I'm really quite excited, and Your Excellencies, thank you so much for sharing the information. And to Minister Shava, I'm quite excited that water is one of the priorities that you've laid out. That's an area that's close to my heart. So we actually have quite a few initiatives we're pursuing in Zimbabwe right now with regards to water. And to Minister Coventry, I know Zimbabwe currently doesn't have a winter team, but as Zimbabweans in the diaspora, we're working hard right now to raise a team for you. So with support from Canada, so very soon you will have a team for winter in all of those sports that Canada excels at. We will have Zimbabweans that will excel just as well. Having said that, I would like to take a moment to introduce the panel. Our panel for today is going to be Mr. Similo Nkala, Operations Manager for Zimtrade, Mrs. Duduzile Shinya, the Chief Financial Officer for Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency, and Mr. Christopher Takunda Mugaga, the Chief Executive Officer for the Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce. I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And before we start, I just thought I would take a moment to just have our panel introduce themselves and their organizations. So I'll start with the ladies. So Mrs. Duduzile Shinya, if you don't mind just letting us know in a minute or so what your organization is about and how your organization plays a role in this conversation.
Thank you very much, Brian. So Zimbabwe Investment and Development Agency, ZIDA, was created and enabled by an act of parliament in 2020. Basically, the act put together various agencies that were operating, looking at investments, but were basically operating in different environments. So we had the Zimbabwe Investment Authority. We also had the Zimbabwe Special Economic Zones Authority, and we had joint ventures which were sitting within the Ministry of Finance. So what the Act allowed us to do was to bring all of those entities basically into one place. So this basically maybe augmented the one-stop investment services center aspect or idea, where everything is now going to be dealt with that has to do with investors under one roof. So basically an investor can come into the ZIDA offices, register a company, request for work permits where work permits are required, register for taxation. And all of these processes, even though when we look at the ease of doing business, may take a little bit longer than they should, and these are areas that we're looking to correct, when you come and do those processes within the ZIDA offices, it does take a far shorter time because everybody is basically sitting in one location. So that's basically ZIDA in summary.
Thank you so much for that summary. And I move next to Mr. Similo Nkala. If you could tell us a little bit about Zimtrade and why it matters, and as well as about yourself, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian. I think I'll begin by saying all protocol observed in the interest of time. I think as per the introduction, my name is Similo Nkala. I'm a Director of Operations at Zimtrade. As Zimtrade, we're the National Trade Development and Promotion Organization. We were formed in 1991 as a unique joint venture partnership between the government and the private sector. So where we come in as Zimtrade, it's more on the facilitation of those who want to get into export business. How do we do it? In terms of how do we do it, we provide the necessary market intelligence or the market information for those who want to get into export business. We also do capacity building training programs for those SMEs that are export ready, or those companies that have been exporting but have had their personnel leaving them, so they want to get information about how they can be capacitated to be export ready. Then also we facilitate participation in external, regional and international trade fairs. In terms of those companies that would have capacitated to be export ready, we then facilitate them to participate in international trade fairs. So where we come in terms of this particular forum as Zimtrade is to try to see where we fit in terms of how best we can assist our companies to export to Canada, and also maybe vice versa in terms of facilitating trade between the two countries. I think after this, we'll just touch briefly on the statistics on where we are in terms of our trade between the two countries. That is where we come in as Zimtrade. I thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Lastly, but not last, Christopher, I don't know if you could touch on that as well in terms of where the chamber comes in this particular case. As a member of the chamber here, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of relations, but just to understand where you come in as an organization and how you help investors that are planning to come into the market. I think you're on mute there.
So much for inviting us as Chamber of Commerce. Thank you. Allow me also to observe protocol. We certainly are excited as an organization to be part of this whole agenda of Canada Africa Business Chamber. As Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce, with a history which dates back to 1894, arguably, obviously the oldest business association in the country. Our motto remains being the voice of business. Our interests are very clear. We want to fight for an environment which is pro-business. While what's exciting is our relationship with the government of Zimbabwe, quite very exciting. We work well together, very cordial relationship. We don't agree all the times, but we agree to disagree to build the nation of Zimbabwe. So we are certainly excited to be part of this, and I want to believe our views on the environment and why investors should consider Zimbabwe are going to be welcome. Thank you very much. Maybe about myself, Christopher Mugaga, born a triplet, I'm a Zimbabwean. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think any sort of initiative that starts with a triplet on the panel means we have, I guess, 5 of us here or 6 of us pushing this angle. That's great. Yeah, so thank you so much. And so I guess the first question, I want to start with the soft questions first, just to get everybody excited, and then we'll get into the hard questions after. But I wanted to understand, I guess I'll just pose this question to the whole panel, but this probably mostly applies to maybe Zimtrade and Zida. So I want to know what trade opportunities currently exist besides, well, maybe to add to what Minister Shava has already brought up, but in a little bit more detail, I guess. What sort of trade opportunities do you see existing between Canada and Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much, Brian. Since you have started on the issues to do with trade opportunities, I think I will take that one first, and I will try to be brief as possible. In terms of our trade, if we look at our trade with Canada, I think our total exports as of last year, it was about 6.3 million US dollars. Our exports in Zimbabwe to Canada, it was about 6.3 million, of which the bulk of it was unmanufactured tobacco, which took about 41% of that 6.3 million. And also the other exports that we did was more to do with fellow alloys, and also we did a little bit of some citrus, which was about 508,000 US dollars. Then also in terms of the trade opportunities that are available, as Zimtrade, we believe that as the Honorable Minister mentioned, that in terms of the horticulture sector or the agriculture sector is the mainstay of our economy. We believe that there is a lot of opportunity when it comes to the exports of horticulture produce. I was looking at the statistics in terms of what Canada imports from Africa. on fruits only. I think they import about 308 million US dollars worth of fruits. So the bulk of it, about 172 million of that, is coming from South Africa. So you find that as Zimbabwe, in terms of citrus, at the present moment, we are exporting mostly to Europe, to the EU market, of which the figure, I think it was about 34 million in 2019. So we believe that there's a lot of potential in that area for us to expand in terms of our exports to Canada. Then also there are other areas whereby people at the present moment, there is that the issue of healthy living, superfoods. We believe that other areas where there is a lot of potential. If you look at blueberries, the blueberries production here in Zimbabwe, it's a growing market. The world's demand of blueberries might be about 3.9 million. And in terms of our exports as Zimbabwe, in 2019 was about 6 million. So there's a lot of production that is happening. Companies or some of our farmers increasing in terms of their production of blueberries. There's also the issue of avocados is still on the horticulture sector, where in terms of our total exports in 2019 was about 14 million US dollars. So we believe as Zimtrade, those are some of the opportunities that we can take advantage of. Then there is also other areas like your works of arts, your arts and crafts curios. I see in your background there, there are some crafts products. So we believe that the potential is there, and we can further explore on that. The key issue, I think, going forward, that we'll need to do as Zimtrade, I'm winding up now. When it comes to the issue of fruits and vegetables, from our experience, what we have seen, we have to know the window periods. Like when we are exporting to Europe, when it comes to mange two peas, we have discovered that as Zimbabwe, we export a lot of mange two peas between April and August every year. And you find that at that particular time, we are more like the second largest exporter of mange two peas to Europe. So we believe that there is a need for us as a country to explore the Canadian market, where we look at the window periods whereby there is low supply of certain fruits and vegetables in that particular market, so that we're able to fully explore some of those export opportunities. Then there are also other things where we've been seeing a great increase in terms of production, your macadamia nuts. There's a lot of production that we're doing as a country, and we believe that there is an opportunity for us as a country. There are also other Afrocentric foods, where we believe that with the large or the growing population of Africans in Canada, we also need to take advantage of the Afrocentric foods, which will include your moringa, your bambara nuts, your baobab powder, and also maybe your maupani worms. So we believe that there are also those other opportunities that can be explored. I thank you.
Thank you. I guess I think I'll pose this next question to Duduzile, if you don't mind. And what is the current investment climate in Zimbabwe, from your opinion?
Thank you, Brian. Before I go into the investment climate, I also just wanted to maybe talk about the role and responsibility of ZIDA. That basically, one of our key roles is promoting, planning, and the implementation of investment promotion strategies. We are also mandated with facilitating entry and implementation of investment projects. So basically, we are the beginning. So where, Zimtrade is talking about, trade, we need to be able to facilitate organizations coming in and being able to partner. The partnering can happen in various ways. So for example, we've got your public-private partnerships, the triple Ps, where a private investor can come in and partner with government. And ZIDA basically looks at those projects and assists government in terms of assessing whether those projects should go forward. We also have the special economic zones, which I think Minister Shava went into some good detail about, where there are certain export incentives, certain fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to allow investors to come into those areas. We also have general investments where private players can actually come in and invest directly into business opportunities that they see in the various key sectors of the country. So when you look at the investment climate as a whole, the numbers are definitely increasing. We're seeing a lot of inquiries coming in. It's actually good that we're on this call now, with the Canadian Africa Chamber, because we've actually got some interest coming in on the gold mining side from some Canadian players. So we're still in the early parts of discussions with them, but there is definitely interest. Not only interest from outside the country, there's also domestic interest as well. And basically the ZEDA acts is that we shouldn't discriminate against domestic and foreign investors. So our role is to make sure that there is a conducive investment environment. And I think this came from an era where potential investors were not comfortable coming into Zimbabwe, and our role is to market the country. Our role is to ensure that investors are aware of the facts behind investing in Zimbabwe, and they're not coming in blind, but they're actually able to assess the environment. So it's been a very positive environment over the last year that we've been operating.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And with regards to my question that I had posed prior to that about the current investment climate, what would be your response to that?
The investment climate is definitely improving. I think basically with the mandate that we have to market the country, people are seeing that there's reason, to look at Zimbabwe as an investment destination. So, for example, I think Honorable Shava talked about Zimbabwe being central in terms of, geographical location, and that makes it, a regional hub. When you look at the climatic conditions of Zimbabwe, they're very key in terms of agriculture. You find that there's little need for growing certain crops within greenhouses, because it's a very conducive environment in generality. I think Ambassador Buchan talked about it earlier to say renewable energy sources, can be found in Zimbabwe as well, whether it's going to be wind, water, or solar. And those are, infrastructure projects that we're also, trying to attract interest from various investors coming into Zimbabwe, because we believe that's the future. That's where the country needs to go to, into renewable energy. I think the workforce is very key when you talk about education. I mean, the literacy rates of Zimbabwe are like 94%. So investors can be comforted knowing that when they come into Zimbabwe, yes, they may need their own expertise coming from their various countries, but there is a very strong workforce that can, facilitate business in the country. So the climate is ripe, and I think with more marketing, coming from the Zimbabwean side, we can actually showcase the opportunities and the positive investment climate.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And I'll pose this next question to you, Christopher. And this is a question that comes up a lot. I mean, as a Zimbabwean, you get into conversations with business people here quite often. And in all of those situations, this question comes up a lot. And so I would like to sort of understand, in your view, what you think are some of the challenges that you've heard from potential investors about Zimbabwe, and also what Zimbabwe is doing to mitigate some of those challenges.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Brian. I think we can look at the challenges from what we consider to be the perceived risk, maybe versus the actual risks. On the perceived risks, I think it's quite very unfortunate in our travels representing the private sector in many countries. I think the narrative about Zimbabwe, sometimes it's unfortunate because it's peddled by people who had never been to the country itself. Even countries in war zones, without necessarily mentioning names, sometimes they don't get such bad painting, which makes it more of a perceived risk, I'll call it that. So I think, thank you again for this opportune time to be clear to say, I always joke to say the openness of Zimbabwean economy can be so negative to the extent that we joke and say you can run a business in Zimbabwe for 2 solid years without a taxpayer knocking your doors, which you can't do to the neighboring country. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a positive, but that's how liberal the whole approach, especially to dealing with business, is in. So the perceived risk is something which we certainly need to look at. I think up to now, you will know there was a repealing of one of the laws which had been considered very controversial, the indigenization and economic empowerment. I think you know that policy which came about in around 2005-6. Up to now, we were shocked with countries across the world who still believe such a policy is existing in the country. So that lack of appetite maybe to also understand Zimbabwe is the major risk to why there can be a negative view on the country. Then let me look at the domestic policy framework. I think it's not a secret that you know at one point Zimbabwe lost its currency and is trying to gather itself, dusting itself from regaining the currency. As you know, we are in a multi-currency regime where the greenback is paired alongside the local currency. We had challenges time and again, yes, of trapped deposits at one time when we could not easily convert most of the investments or repatriate them out of the country. But with the coming in of a bill, I'm very aware, after interaction with the central bank in Zimbabwe, of a law which is coming up quite very soon, facilitating the repatriation and also getting a finality or a solution to trapped deposits, especially from an FDI angle. I think you appreciate it's for any investor who comes into a country, the first thing is capital mobility. To what extent are you able to push your funds back? Be it dividends, be it from portfolio investment, any area you can look at. So we are quite very happy that strides are being made. We are making a lot of strides on that front to see to it that the issue of legacy debts, notably with the exposure of foreign companies, is being solved. But look, like I said to you, once perception become something else, it's easy for perception to become reality, which is the major threat towards the Zimbabwe market, which if both the 40 state and the locals, I'm quite happy that the Zimbabweans themselves, they are working day and night also to build such platforms, because these are the very platforms which debunk the whole myth surrounding what Zimbabwe stands for or what Zimbabwe is about. So the operating environment itself is very liberal. Like most countries in Africa, naturally, I think you can see we can differ in terms of the policy-making culture. But with inflation going down, I think you'll appreciate, if you look at inflation numbers, same time last year to today, moving down from almost 800% to figures which are very low, month on month, below even 2.5%. I think such numbers can tell you the whole climate and the consolidation coming from the treasury and the central bank in Zimbabwe to build a pro-investor friendly climate. So the repealing of the indigenization policy itself, it's a big plus, which cannot be overlooked by any rational investor who could be interested in coming to Zimbabwe. The peace dividend, I think you can walk any corner of this country or any city without worrying about mugs or anyone else. It's a peaceful country, naturally. The whole political noise here is naturally, I'm not a politician, but it's definitely political contestation of parties, but we will never hear a gun in any part of this country.
I think we just lost Christopher. So I wonder if Dudizile and Milo, if you would like to jump in as well on that question.
Thank you, Brian. If maybe I can also add, from an investor perspective, from the investors and potential investors that we've dealt with, I think the regulatory environment is an area of concern where there is a lot of regulation. As an investor coming into the country, there are lots of laws, rules. We've got SIs, and there's the need, for ZIDA to explain some of these policies. Just to assist in terms of helping potential investors to comply with the laws. So, as opposed to, we're just going to penalize an investor, we have assumed, the role of coaching investors and helping them to comply with the rules and regulations. I think another area is policy changes and policy inconsistencies.
Sorry. Sorry, I lost you there for a second.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't sure if you had dropped off or if it was me.
It was on my end. Something is going on with my network. My apologies.
Okay.
So I was just going to say, I guess, based on that question that we just raised of Zimbabwe's perception being one of really the biggest challenges, I guess, that we face as a nation in terms of correcting that perception. How are your organizations helping to correct that perception? And I'll pose this question to Moodys and Similo, whichever one of you wants to answer first.
All right. Thank you, Brian. In terms of the perceptions, one of ZIDA's mandates is advocacy. So, for example, when it comes to policy inconsistencies or the number of regulations that potential investors need to deal with, ZIDA is then mandated with basically compiling lists and then caucusing the various ministries and where there's local authorities that are involved, but all the regulatory authorities that are involved, in terms of helping them to understand the frustrations that investors are facing and coming up with common grounds of being able to improve that sort of environment. So if, for example, it may mean that you've got a central sort of hub, like, for example, ourselves, where we are saying we've got the offices of the company registration, we've got the tax office, we've got immigration, all sitting in one area, just to make it easy for somebody to then comply with registering a company and being able to register a company quickly. Those are the sort of efficiencies that we want to bring, just so that the investor then feels that there's a difference, that they're actually welcomed and are being enabled. So it's creating an enabling environment. Part of the mandate that we have been given is to improve the ease of doing business in the country, and that mainly revolves around increased efficiencies. So we're basically working with other ministries, local authorities, government agencies, to make sure that we can find ways to then improve where it's going to impact investors and create that conducive investing environment. Digitalization is something that's going to be very key. And in the ZIDA Act, it comes out very specifically to say that we need to transform the country on a digital platform. So the whole move to AI, robotics, it needs to be driven within the country, within the economy, just to enable business, to allow the ease of people coming in from outside, whether investors or potential investors, to be able to do business within the country. So I think these are, some of the key areas that ZIDA is getting involved to just try and help in terms of creating efficiencies. And ZIDA as well is basically strategically positioned to liaise with government officers. So basically, whether it's liaising with private sector, with government officers, that's part of our mandate.
Okay,
thank you
so much. And Similo, would you like to add to that as well in terms of?
Thank you very much. I think where we've been coming in as Zimtrade, I think I will summarize the issue of perception to do with maybe the issue of nation branding. I think in summary, it talks about that. I think what we are working on as Zimtrade is to come up with nation brands, like in terms of products. You find that for us as Zimtrade, you'll find that most of my examples are more on the manufactured products and horticulture and the services sector. That's our special focus as Zimtrade. So what we've been trying is to come up with the nation brands to say, what are we known for as Zimbabwe? We have traveled to certain countries when we are doing our export promotion organizations, where maybe in terms of our products, they are not well known. Like if you go to Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique, those countries that are next to us, they've got a general understanding of the products that we produce and the quality of the products that we do. So what we are trying to do at the present moment is to come up with certain nation brands to say, okay, if someone asks, what is Zimbabwe known for? There are certain products, whether it's your Mazoe orange juice. I know some Zimbabweans, they might know about it, whether it's about your Tanganda as a tea. There is a need for us to come up with certain nation brands so that we can be able to push that. I also spoke about the issue of your Manch 2Ps, where now in the EU market, we are well known to be the second largest supplier of Manch 2Ps during April to August. So those are some of the things that we need to work on to say, okay, as we are promoting the Zimbabwean products as Zimtrade, as well, going out there to Canada, to America, to the EU, to the Middle East, we should be promoting Zimbabwean products so that when people get to hear about Zimbabwe, the first thing that should come into their minds is maybe the quality of the product. As the Honorable Minister mentioned, the issue of organic fruits and vegetables that we produce as a country. Yes, I know in terms of certifications, there are certain certifications that you have to be certified under, but you find that the world over, when we are exporting our fruits and vegetables, we are always told about the taste of our produce. That is totally different from other countries. I know even for your blueberries, it's said, even if it's the same variety that is produced in our other neighboring countries, it's said that our blueberries are a bit sweeter, even our citrus. It said there is something about our citrus. So as Zimtrade, I think that is what we are doing in terms of changing the perception about our country. Then also, as Duduzile mentioned, there is also the drive to work on the ease of doing export business, because we believe that when investors come through, ultimately, as they invest in Zimbabwe, ultimately there will be a need for them to export, whether they are exporting in the region or they are exporting back to Canada. As I mentioned, that in terms of the total imports of fruits in Canada, I think if my figures are right or correct from TradeMap, it's about $308 million US. So imagine if you come to invest in Zimbabwe, because one of the key things is the issue of long-term finance. So if you are to come to Zimbabwe, invest in citrus production, invest in blueberries, which takes about 2 to 3 years, where you might get your return on your investments, and you are assured of a market if it's in Canada. So you are investing in Zimbabwe in something where you are assured that there's an export market for it, whether it's in EU or Canada or in America or the Middle East. So that is what we've been working on as Zimtrade.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'll start, this question I'll pose it to the whole panel. And starting with you, Christopher, what can be done to improve trade with Zimbabwe and between Zimbabwe and Canada? Sorry, I think you're on mute, Chris.
I pray that you will not lose me again. Thank you very much. Yes, I think you certainly, at the moment, we have to be very sincere to understand that trade with Zimbabwe can also be looked in the context of trade with Africa after the consummation of the African Convened Free Trade Area. We are determined as private sector, and I know government also, as we heard from the minister, the determination is very much alive to see action follow up to the ratification towards the African Continental Free Trade Area. But anyway, look, for trade to make sense, for Zimbabwe, naturally trade is war. That's how we interpret it. So every time we talk trade, we want to know what's in for us in Zimbabwe. That's where we will be, just like Canada, we'll look at it. We fight hard to make sure we are not going to be a supermarket economy, to be a typical, tasty economy where we consume. Those overalready, if you look, we could be running a current account surplus in some instances, but just looking at even the trade figures we're talking about, Canada, Zimbabwe, you will see what Canada possibly is looking at Zimbabwe is totally raw materials, it's non-value-added goods. So for trade to make sense between the two countries, and also between Canada and Africa, we believe as Zimbabwe, the need to move up the value chain, because the concentration towards primary products is quite very unsettling. It's something as private sector, we know very well, it really doesn't make business sense. Every time you see 65, 70% of your commodities or exports, they are primary commodities. That alone can tell you that the quality of trade itself is an issue which needs attention. Then obviously, I think I spoke about the risk, which is perception, which therefore means from political side, it's important to mention geopolitics. For some time, I think you appreciate the trade sanctions Zimbabwe had been under, but sometimes it's not a political playground. It's also a private sector becoming victims to this. I joke time and again with my colleagues, be it in Rwanda and South Africa, you'll be shocked that facilities which are available to private sectors in Joburg, in Kigali, they are not the same privileges you might find for businesses in Zimbabwe. Also to do with the geopolitical risk, which I'm mentioning right now. So for trade to make sense also between the two countries, we need to see to it that the relations, Your Excellency Ambassador Mama Ruth Masodzi, the relations, they have to go beyond business or economics to move to political also, because most of the agreements, after all, if ever they are to be negotiated, it's at political level. So it's the relations between Harare, obviously, and Canada, whether it's Ottawa, they have to somehow be strong. Then last, for the very same trade to be what it is, I think Zimbabwe at the moment, we need to see to it that we promote trade finance. Like my colleague Similo mentioned, to talk of quality of trade or significant trade when trade finance is of limited quantum, it's something we can't expect. The level playing field, or the playing field will not be leveled for that matter. And with the short-termism nature of facilities in this country, especially for the private sector, the cost of capital is very high at the moment. It's a fact. Not only the cost, but also the tenure itself is too short to sustain capital-intensive businesses with a longer life cycle. So you will end up maybe having this typical trade deficit with countries like Canada for the simple reason that already financing business in Zimbabwe is not on a level playing field. But as I conclude, we are looking at a borderless society where time and again, as Zimbabwe National Chamber of Commerce right now, as I'm talking to you, I think you appreciate, we are having capacitation building across the country where we are conscientizing the private sector on what a borderless society means. You know how time and again in Africa, when industry is under threat, you think about protectionism, you think about arguments to do with dumping off the remedies. You want to see that happening. So we are alive and we are pushing our membership, the private sector in Zimbabwe, to the reality that after ratifying to the ACFTA, the whole war or the argument is no longer between Harare and different countries, it's Africa and different countries. That's how we are seeing it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Do you mind taking this on as well, Duduzile, from your perspective?
Okay. I think the communication between the countries, between Canada and Zimbabwe is key in terms of identifying import and export opportunities. So for example, you know, through the ambassadors and also through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we can identify items that are being imported by Canadians, for example, and perhaps if they are available in Zimbabwe, we can work together with Zimtrade to make sure that, you know, the Zimbabweans now have access, you know, to a market, or Canadians have access to the particular import where, you know, they didn't necessarily know that there was that opportunity. And the same works vice versa, where, for example, there are things that are being imported, you know, by Zimbabweans, and perhaps, you know, a Canadian partnership can actually assist. So there's a lot of dialogue, I think, that needs to take place. Just for the two countries to understand the opportunities, I think that we can then develop. They are, you know, I think I touched on it, that we do have geographical special economic zones in which, you know, Canadian businesses can come and operate And in those areas, there are certain fiscal and non-fiscal incentives which they can enjoy. In general, there's, duty-free importation on machinery, for example, when somebody comes through to, to put in a new plant. And I think Christopher also mentioned it, where he was saying that, we want more value-added products. We don't want to be shipping out, as a country, we don't want to be shipping out raw materials or, the minerals in their natural form. We want there to be the value-added process. So manufacturing is a very key industry that we need to grow. At the moment, I think the manufacturing industry in Zimbabwe is about 11%, and we're saying it needs to grow. I mean, this is where the job creation is going to come from. This is where economic development is going to be seen more visibly. So I think the opportunities are there, and it's time for us to mine them. And Zida is going to be very key in terms of communicating these. And on our website, these are some of the things that we want to be able to demonstrate to anyone, visiting the site, to say what are the opportunities that are available in Zimbabwe, and not only in Zimbabwe, but for your country as an investor and for your investors. What is it that's available?
Okay, thank you. And Similo, do you mind taking on this as well in a minute or so?
Okay, thank you so much, Brian. I think a lot has been said. I think from our end, the key issue is there will be a need for us to identify maybe the niche products where we will have a competitive advantage in terms of exporting to Canada. We know that Canada will be a very, very competitive market for some of our companies. So it will be good if those niche products are identified to say, where can we be able to compete as a country. I think I've been speaking about horticultural produce, whereby we can also maybe go further to talk about value-added goods. If we're talking about citrus, if investments are done in Zimbabwe, as Duduzi and Christopher had been saying, and there's some value addition in terms of that citrus being converted into juices, or if we're doing spices, or if we're doing essential oils, those are some of the things that we can look at, which might have more potential in terms of going into export markets. But the key thing, I think, as everyone has said, is the issue of identifying the niche products, and also focusing on certain value-added products. And also, as Christopher said, when people invest here, they are not only investing to sell in Zimbabwe, they are also investing to export to the rest of Africa through the coming in of the AfCFTA, and also maybe to Canada as well. So for me, I think that's my summary in terms of the opportunities that are available. There might also be a need to say for some of our companies to increase their exports to Canada. There might be a need for the identification of export promotion events. I know now the easier part, some trade fairs are not necessarily physical trade fairs. So there might also be a need to organize a B2B meeting, online B2B meetings, or us as Zimtrade also working with our embassy in Canada, identifying maybe virtual trade fairs that can be available. So for some of our companies, they can participate if it's to do with the services sector, maybe where we are a bit good as a country to supply certain services. I think if there are also other services related trade fairs, some of our companies can also be facilitated to participate in those trade fairs. I think that's what can be done in terms of us increasing our trade between the two countries.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll tell you one of the reasons why I'm a Zimbabwean, obviously, so I would love to go back home and invest. But one of the reasons why I'm interested in Zimbabwe at the moment is mostly the human capital. The fact that if I'm able to start this idea that we have in Zimbabwe, we can at least train people and have them take it to the rest of the region. So that human capital piece, I think, is an opportunity that Zimbabwe could exploit really well. One of the other things that is also important is that in Canada, as a Canadian business, I think the statistic is majority of the Canadian exporting businesses, rather the business that export and go into other countries and invest are businesses that are actually started by new Canadians. That's sort of the majority. And so based on that sort of information, what initiatives do you have to attract Zimbabweans in the diaspora to come back and invest at home?
Maybe I can start there, Brian. Zeda being fairly new, we've been reaching out to, past investors. At the same time, we have been reaching out to the diaspora. I know we haven't done enough. I think on our website, we've got an area where we ask people for feedback and input. But we've got engagements that are lined up, and those should be starting, in the second half of the year, where we actually have webinars and workshops where we discuss certain issues, but we're also just telling the diaspora the opportunities that are available for them. One interesting thing is that in the last couple of months, maybe, since the beginning of the year, we've had a lot of initiatives coming in from the diaspora where Zimbabweans are working on projects. So, without going into too much detail, I mean, we've had proposals, in the agricultural sector, in education, in mining, and there's a lot of interest where people are saying, they would like to get involved. So we want to be able to, on the website, be able to say, this is what is available in Zimbabwe. The Zeda Act is also very specific in terms of non-discrimination. So, it talks about non-discrimination between local investors and also foreign investors. So there shouldn't be any, difference between the two. So even, the diasporans who are Zimbabweans living outside the country, they must have an equal opportunity in terms of coming to invest, in the country. So the same sort of protections that are being offered to a foreign investor are also being offered to a Zimbabwean investor. So we definitely look forward to more activity, and we definitely want to take as much feedback as possible. So if people want to just go onto our website and also just give us feedback, we would really like to hear it. So we're engaging to the diasporans through various associations. For example, CZI as an organization, they know of organizations and diasporans outside the country. We've got the Institute of Chartered Accountants, where they have a great majority of their membership who work outside of Zimbabwe. And these are people that are working with international or internationally affamed organizations. So it does get the word out, pretty quickly. But there's so many other associations that we can be linked with and tie up with. We're working very closely as well with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, where we are saying we need to reach out to the various embassies, just to allow an opportunity for dialogue, where they can also ask questions, so that we can address some of the concerns that are out there. I think over the next couple of months, we'll also be issuing prospectuses on the website, where we are talking about the actual opportunities on the ground for whether it's Zimbabweans who are abroad or investors abroad, to actually be able to then understand the opportunities better.
Okay, thank you so much. And I will pose this as the last question before we get into the Q&A. And I think that's a question that's probably on everyone's mind. So an investor comes in, puts in some money into Zimbabwe, develops this entire business. What sort of security measures are in place to ensure that investors don't lose the money that they've invested in the country? And I think I will, so go ahead with this.
All right. So, there have been various engagements that have been done. I think this is it's a major area of concern when it comes to the country, after having gone through a lot of issues, whether it was, currencies, hyperinflation, Reserve Bank rules. And, there have been engagements with the Reserve Bank. There have been engagements, with the Ministry of Finance. And there is general agreement and consensus that anyone who puts their money into the country will be able to get that money out. So at the point of investment, these are some of the key conditions that we need to make sure have been put in place. So the liaison between, the Reserve Bank are done at investment level so that those guarantees can then be enacted if there is need to enact. So when you do bring in your funds as an investor, there is already that agreement with the Reserve Bank that you should be able to take out and repatriate your funds. So we basically make sure that there's transparency in terms of how the law is being enforced, because we think that that's key in terms of being able to engage other communities coming in. And there needs to be equitability as well. And I think investors need to be confident that they will be treated. It doesn't matter whether it's by a government agency or the government itself, but that there will be equitability and that there are protections. And I can confidently say that these protections are there.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll end there. Gareth, if you don't mind taking over, thank you so much for listening to us, and thank you to the panel for sharing so much information. Thank you.
Mr. Brian Dodo, thank you so much, and to each of our incredible panelists and all of our speakers for such a fantastic session. There are a number of questions we have, dozens in fact, and we'll be connecting and handling with those each offline. So thank you to all of you who've sent those questions in. We have your details based on registration, and over the next couple of hours, you'll be receiving some responses from us as we channel you in the right direction. I want to thank the Ambassador in Ottawa, Ambassador Chikwera, for your incredible leadership leading up to today, and certainly for the relationship as we move forward. Again, welcome to the Republic of Zimbabwe, officially a full member of the Canada-Africa Chamber of Business. To Ambassador Buchan down in Harare, thank you for your leadership on the ground, and certainly your team is standing ready to assist Canadian companies as they make the decision to invest or expand their footprint, and that is certainly welcome. So thank you to the entire team as well over in Harare for your support and for your availability. And then finally, of course, we've spoken a lot about the opportunities, but we never want to cease to fail to underscore the Canadian firms that are already on the ground who are taking advantage. And Hatch is a long-standing member and a great Canadian company currently operating in Zimbabwe. And so to conclude this session today is none other than the Chief Financial Officer, Craig Sumption, who will be concluding our event. We look forward to seeing each one of you once again. Please stay in contact. You have our contact details, and each of you will also receive a copy of this recording in the next few hours. Thank you again. And over to you, Craig Sumption, down in Johannesburg today.
Thank you, Gareth, and thank you for what you and the Canada-Africa Chamber does across this continent. Your Excellencies, Honourable Ministers, distinguished panelists, and everyone who's listened into this session today, thank you for your time. Thank you for the promotion of Zimbabwe. There's great potential on this continent of ours and great potential within Zimbabwe as well. And as such, we're fortunate to have had a number of long and varied working relationships within Zimbabwe. We're extremely excited to see and learn about these initiatives, and we look forward to them coming to fruition and to generate good, positive growth within the country. So thank you once again. To all those in Africa, have a good evening. Those in Canada, have a great afternoon. Thank you.